I think all of us have wanted to be important in some way. Maybe not like president or pop idol, but to do something that mattered. Something that would be meaningful long after we're gone. At our funerals, we want people to show up, cry, and give speeches about how much our passing sucks, because our work and our talent or our friendship was special and rare and touched the lives of those around us in an irreplaceable way. There are certainly people like that in the world, but what we don't see in the magazines and movies are the things those pioneers gave up. Opportunities lost, loved ones ignored, friends discarded, to get to the lonely heights of greatness. What Dust Remains, written by 2022 Diana Jones Emerging Designer Award winner Bianca Canosa, asks players to go behind the scenes of the accomplished and powerful, take up the mantle of legacy, and try to build something that will eclipse you, even at the cost of the things you hold most dear. What Dust Remains is setting neutral, but requires collaborative world building to flesh out the context for your pioneer. Your group must decide the kind of world you're playing in, which usually involves selecting a genre, such as a post-apocalyptic dystopia or a freezing outpost in the Arctic. You have to create the world's conflicts within that genre, which could be anything from an incurable virus, apathetic citizenry, or just straight-up monsters. Most importantly, you must create the character whose legacy you want to build, and elaborate on what that legacy might be. I think the most interesting part of this world building is the framing of the legacy. Each player must say out loud, "When I was a kid, I've always wanted to be X," with that blank space being something ambitious and high-minded, the kinds of dreams that can only be sustained by the naive or young. This lays the groundwork for how the rest of the game will progress. Even if you don't exactly follow up on all the pioneers' childhood dreams, you ought to incorporate them into the profession or role they inhabit as they grow up. A kid who wanted to travel the world might grow into a scientist studying tropical animals, while a child who lived in a town hunted by monsters might join a defense force holding the terrors at bay. The way to win What Dust Remains is to successfully achieve your legacy, which will involve making 8 levels of progression on your legacy track. Whether or not you earn these levels depends on your success at 4 stages of life: youth, transition, maturity, and final moments, which are respectively represented by the card suits hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades. Each life stage consists of 3 rounds, and each round gives you 3 turns. On each turn, players will draw from a deck consisting of only 1 suit, further divided into 3 subdecks consisting of Ace to 5, 6 to 10, and your face cards, called Royals. On each turn in a round, players will draw from the subdecks in sequence, facing the milestone challenges presented by each prompt. For example, drawing a 2 in the youth stage will prompt players to undertake new education to better understand their world. To determine whether this education proves successful, players will roll between 4 and 1 dice, earning a success on either a 5 or a 6. If you're successful, players describe how their prompt brought them closer to achieving their legacy, and a level of progression is marked. The number of die depends on the stage of life they're at, starting with 4 when you're young, and ending with 1 in your final moments. To further complicate things, while each of the 3 rounds in a given life stage grants players 3 turns, in order to move from one subdeck to the next and continue a turn, a success must be rolled. Any failure during a turn ends the round immediately, forcing players to try their luck again. This is where the game gets difficult. You can theoretically complete the game without ever leaving the youth stage, since you can potentially succeed 9 times in a row. But mathematically, it's harder than it sounds. With 4 dice, you have a roughly 80% chance to roll a 5 or higher. But if you roll with 80% odds even 3 times in a row, like in a full round of What Dust Remains, your odds of consecutive success drop to 51%. You see how this gets tricky, right? You can rack up wins as you age, but one unlucky roll sets you back a long way. And when you move further down your life stage, you lose a die, making it that much harder to achieve your legacy. Which makes sense, right? The older you get, the less time you have, the less chances present themselves, the more your responsibilities get in your way. If only there was a way to be free from your burdens, to break the chains tethering you to the mundanities of everyday life. Surely then, you could achieve greatness. This is where facets come in. Facets are sort of anti-incentives in that you don't actually want to use them. You start the game with 9 facets in 3 categories: resources, such as money and connections, joys, like family and pets, and principles, your pioneers' virtues and beliefs. Good things. Things you'd want to hold on to. Unless you hunger for renown, that is. The thing is that when you do hit upon an unlucky roll, instead of starting an entire round over again, you can sacrifice a facet for the chance to reroll. That's the problem the game poses. You might get to 8 successes without too much difficulty, but if you haven't achieved your legacy early, you'll start burning facets to make up for lost time. You must first start with your resources, eating away your wealth and possessions to get the edge you need. But as your desperation heightens, you'll neglect family and push away your values, risking everything for a chance to carve your name into time's ever-crumbling memory. I think this is what Dust Remains nails in its execution of mechanics as narrative. If you are truly hell-bent on making something that matters, you might risk it all on your deathbed. Even if you're rolling one measly die, if you eat away at your facets, the things that in theory matter most to your character, you can, probably, eke out those last few legacy points and be remembered. The question is, if you give up your family, friends, and morals all in hopes of achieving that last precious dream, what kind of legacy are you actually leaving behind? I really enjoyed reading What Dust Remains as a way to learn more about Canosa's writing style in games. Narrative experiences that allow groups to collaboratively build a story together are my favorite kinds of TTRPGs, and seeing how her prose blends with purposeful mechanics made clear why she won a Diana Jones this year. This game is not a happy one, nor should it be. I think Canosa is making a point about the reasons people are remembered, and that point is not flattering to important figures of history. The aspects of our lives that allow one to be remembered are often out of our control, left to fate more than anything our limited capacity can actually change. But when we do strive to leave a mark, we lose other things, facets of life that no one can sacrifice without losing sleep at night. I think my only criticism is that the structure of the game suggests that the best chance at greatness comes early on, and that if you haven't done something important by the second half of your life, you'll have to lose everything that matters to make an impact. I definitely don't think that's the message Canosa intended to impart, but I did just want to state up front, more for my own well-being than anyone else's, is that if you feel like you haven't found your niche yet, you have time. But if you're interested in a collaborative game that asks players to make hard choices to tell a heartbreaking story of how far one person will go for greatness, I encourage you to set out to build your own legacy, and take stock of what dust remains. Thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to, look into my reviews. They take a lot of work, so I really appreciate you spending your time with me. If there's other games you think I should cover, please let me know in the comments. And if you like these videos, please recommend my channel to your friends. I just love making numbers go up, and I'm almost at 100 subscribers, so that's pretty cool, I think. If you like the kind of work I do, you can follow me on Twitter at AirnessXL, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. If you want to listen to more of my content, you can find my podcasts at Mortified Pod and at The Bible Boys. On Mortified, me and my friend Layla do critical media analysis, and the week after this video goes up, we're going to watch the 2019 Joker film, which I expect will be miserable. And on The Bible Boys, me and my 2 ex-evangelical friends talk about Christian media, and as a special treat, we're going to run a module from the recently released 5e Adventurer's Guide to the Bible, so that'll be weird. So if that's interesting, please check that out. Thank you as always for watching. I hope to have another review out soon. Bye!